Morning. I'm Casey. This is Keystone Curiosity, where we talk about all things unique to the state of Pennsylvania. Today's episode is going to be 5 amazing places to see in 2025. If there's one thing Pennsylvania is known for, it's the wonderful, near perfect condition of our roadways. And with that reputation, it may surprise you to know that the largest pothole in the entire world is right here in Pennsylvania.
Initially discovered by coal miners, Archbald Pothole is a geological wonder left here from the last ice age. Besides being a common feature of every piece of pavement from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh, potholes are also the result of erosion over the course of thousands of years. And it's that definition that you'll find at Archbald Pothole State Park. The park has some of the trails and natural beauty you can expect from a state park, especially when you combine it with a regional park that shares the grounds with it. But the main highlight is an observation platform overhanging the pothole itself. There, placards of information can be found detailing its history and millennia-long development. To me, it serves as a nice place to stop and stretch your legs if you're driving along Route 6 or 81 in northeast Pennsylvania. A place to enjoy the land that we live in, as well as view and appreciate a glimpse of that land's foundations.
The founding of America can trace its roots directly to Philadelphia, and the history of that city is the most important out of any in the entire nation. Resting just outside of the city, Valley Forge National Historic Park offers an opportunity for anyone to gain an appreciation for those pivotal years.
In the winter of 1777, that history was far from certain. The commander of the Continental Army, General George Washington, had spent the last few months in defeat after defeat during the Philadelphia campaign, which saw the British Army firmly in control of the American capital. Forced to set up winter quarters away from the city, but still close enough to keep an eye on the British, Washington would lead his troops into Valley Forge in the middle of a snowstorm. And things wouldn't get much better from there. In the coming months, the same troops would be racked with freezing cold temperatures, rampant diseases, and mass starvation. Thousands would ultimately perish from the issues, but those that had survived would come out of that winter changed and hardened. Whilst camped at Valley Forge, the army would come under the instruction of a Prussian drill master named Baron von Steuben. Von Steuben would standardize drill manuals, practice military maneuvers, and instill an overall level of discipline necessary for any successful army. The result was a fighting force on par with the might of the British Empire, which they would go on to prove in the coming years.
If you take the time to check out my channel, you'll probably notice that I tend to like a lot of the wilder, more outdoorsy places across the state. And it's in that quest for the Pennsylvania wilds that led me to Allegheny National Forest and the reservoir that it surrounds.
The story of the reservoir in particular is a complicated one to say the least, as it serves as one of the more recent examples of how the U.S. government likes to screw over the Native Americans. The result, however, is a place of quiet beauty where anyone can enjoy a long list of outdoor activities. Here, you can spend a day out on the water or cool off in the shallows during the summer months, but also traverse the rocks and trails of popular overlooks, taking in beautiful views of every angle of the lake. And when you need to find a place to rest your head, I highly recommend checking out one of the various types of campgrounds established by the U.S. Forestry Service. While most of these sites and trails are aimed at making the natural beauty as accessible as possible, including one section that was selected as PA's Trail of the Year in 2024, the National Forest does offer longer, more secluded treks, like parts of the North Country Trail, giving access to a small sample of the true wilderness of Pennsylvania.
Another big part of the channel is exploring events that showcase the uniqueness of the state of Pennsylvania. Naturally, a lot of that comes down to the history of the people within the communities that they had established for themselves. And perhaps the best example I've seen of this is the portrayal of the Pennsylvania Dutch culture at the Gasjehapen Folk Festival.
Now, there are quite a few folk festivals all across the country, but I personally feel that this one sets itself apart as more of a reenactment than just a festival. Here, you won't see row upon row of vendors peddling their wares, but costumed educators showing off the crafts of their forebears. These volunteers bring a level of depth and passion I have rarely seen anywhere else. Whether it's baking pies in iron wood stoves, or woodworking before the days of electric power tools, these individuals teach their skills to festival goers and younger volunteers alike in the most authentic way I could possibly imagine. Wearing historically accurate clothing, and using nothing but the things that they would have had access to from the time that they portray, passing down the lessons and legends of our past in an act of cultural education and historical preservation.
The southeast region of Pennsylvania is far more well known for its historical significance than it is for being a wild, outdoorsy kind of place. But that's not always the case. Despite being one of the more populated areas of the state, there's still more than a few state parks in which you can find the peace and seclusion of the natural world.
French Creek State Park rests about halfway between King of Prussia and Reading, but still sports more than 7,000 acres of protected lands. 2 separate lakes grant access for fishing and water sports, while miles upon miles of trails wind their way through the quiet of the forest for those with the will to seek it. But beyond just being a natural retreat, the park does support public activities on their main grounds near Hopewell Lake, with playgrounds, a public swimming pool, and even a disc golf course. Additionally, adjacent to the state park is Hopewell Furnace National Historic Site, which is operated by the National Park Service. The furnace displays the early days of American industry, as they give demonstrations using molten metal to teach about the days of those long-forgotten trades. Combining the educational activities of Hopewell Furnace with the plethora of outdoor fun at French Creek can make it difficult to see everything in one day, which is convenient because campgrounds and cabins offered by the DCNR are located at French Creek to make it easy to turn this into a weekend adventure, the memories of which will never be forgotten.
Each of the places on this list are fantastic in their own special ways. If any of them did catch your interest, I highly suggest you check out my channel where I cover each one of them in more depth in their own specific episodes. While you're there, please take the time to consider subscribing. Every like, view, or comment is very helpful to smaller channels like mine, and to be honest, they don't really cost you anything to do so. To those of you who do, or have done so already, thank you. I hope you all have a happy new year, and I look forward to making more videos in 2025.